Well, thank you all for hanging in there. I know that it's been a long day, so actually I'd like to give you all a round of applause for coming and sticking it out. So, in a way, I'm going to start by exemplifying one of the worst traits of bartending, and that is I'm going to talk for 15 minutes while you wait for a drink. So I have to apologize for that in advance, but I promise you this, if anybody would like a drink following this, I have a punch set up outside. So you all are welcome to partake of that. So I guess a lot of people have in their mind the image of a bartender, especially if you're my age, as Tom Cruise. You know, that sort of flipping bottles and the sort of petite rock star lifestyle that bartenders live. But I have to tell you that I'm actually a nerd. So I feel right at home in Washington, D.C. because this is the capital of nerds, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, exactly. And we even have one in the White House, so that's good. And I imagine because you're not watching the game that some of you are nerds as well. Exactly, what game? Well, you're just American, so. So when I first was approached about doing this speech today, I did the nerdy thing, and I went right to my cocktail books, right? And I have hundreds of them, and I really love looking through these great old cocktail books going back to the middle of the 19th century. And so I was flipping through the pages of them, and I came across all these cocktails that I thought would be inspirational, and ones that I thought you'd be able to connect to, and ones that I'd be able to show you this reinvention of cocktails. And so there were great cocktails like the dry martini. Anyone a martini fan out there? Yeah, I'm singularly obsessed with the dry martini, but we won't talk about that. That would take much more than 13 minutes and 47 seconds. So I also saw the Manhattan. That's a good old cocktail, and the daiquiri, which has nothing to do with a 180 proof spirit and a red slushy that you get through a drive-in in New Orleans, okay? That's a real classic cocktail. And then I started to think of some of the more obscure cocktails like an Aviation or a Vieux Carré, or Queen's Park Swizzle. And these are some of my favorite cocktails I wanted to impress my cocktail nerd friends with. So it turns out that, and I was thinking of all these cocktails, one cocktail actually kept coming to mind. And it had nothing to do with a classic cocktail. In fact, when I found it, I was looking for it for my best friend when I was growing up's birthday party. He was turning 21. And it was the first cocktail that I ever made. And so this cocktail, I turned to the page, and this wasn't a classic cocktail book, mind you. This was just a popular cocktail book. And I looked through, and there was this bright green drink. It was a combination of spiced rum, canned pineapple juice, and melon liqueur. If that sounds ghastly to you, it really was. It was horrible. It was awful. But for some reason, it appealed to me at the time. And so I dumped all of these ingredients into a pitcher, and having no taste and no skill, I just threw the ice in and stirred it a little bit. And so the result was this bright green, glowing, phosphorescent cocktail that tasted of diet candy, if you've ever had that. So this lingering saccharin-like taste. But we enjoyed it. We actually enjoyed it a lot. And so we drank and we drank and we drank. And in fact, the next morning when I woke up, kind of curled into a ball, I really truthfully felt like there had been some kind of alien abduction. You know, I think it was a little bit like Aliens with Sigourney Weaver, where the alien felt like it was coming out of my stomach. So that was pretty bad. But that was the worst part of the cocktail. And in fact, the sort of incoherent, useless part of the night was also not worth it. But what was worth it, I'm sure some of us have had those experiences before, but what was worth it is that it was sort of an adventure to make this cocktail. It was a way to bond with my friends. And there was a sort of ritual behind it. And to me, that was beautiful. And I look back on that moment and I think, well, it was an awful cocktail, but it was a great moment. And it talks a little bit about the reasons why we're reinventing the cocktail today. So I didn't know at that point that I would become a bartender. I had worked in pretty much every job conceivable in a restaurant, and I got the opportunity to step behind the stick. And that's when my boss came to me. I worked in a neighborhood restaurant. My boss came to me and asked me if I knew how to bartend. And of course, I just lied. And I said, yes, I did. Knowing how to make one cocktail, mind you. And so I sort of faked it. And I think a lot of people, when they first start out in bartending, do this, is they just lie their way into it. Because how do you get experience without first lying about it? So anyway, sorry about that for lying, boss. But it was, she said to me, well, I guess she kind of called my bluff. Because then she said, well, why don't you make me a rum punch? And now I could actually tell you the history of the rum punch. I could go back to the 17th, maybe 16th century and sort of illustrate the rum punch and what a great drink it is and how it was created by British sailors and all of that. And how the cocktail is sort of like a mini punch. But then I really didn't know what I was doing. So I knew rum was in it and I knew juice was in it, right? Because I was thinking about fruit punch, like Kool-Aid or something like that. So I went and I grabbed every rum on the rail. I took the coconut-infused rum and the dark rum. And I see some of you rolling your eyes, so maybe you've had this drink by me before, and I'm sorry. Dark rum, light rum, gold rum. And I poured it all into a glass, followed by every juice we had on the bar, right? Passion fruit juice and sour mix and canned pineapple juice makes an appearance again. And it was probably pretty hideous. I decorated it with every fruit on the bar too, like lime and lemon and cherry and this garish looking drink. It was a monstrosity. But for whatever reason, my boss is feeling very, very generous, so she gave me the job. And I have to tell you, as soon as I stepped foot behind the bar, I really realized that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I think then, and I think now, that bartending is the greatest profession on the planet. And in fact, if somebody had told me in high school that I could drink for a living, I don't know if I would have went to college. But fortunately, they didn't, which may be pretty irresponsible now that I think about it. But I studied anthropology, and anthropology has helped me greatly in the pursuit of bartending and in making cocktails. For one, because obviously you have many drunken tribes that enter your bar, and it helps to understand them. But I think also because cocktails really encompass our culture, and they tell us a lot about who we are. So when I was working behind this bar, people were very generous in the first night that I worked. They came in and they ordered things like beer and vodka soda, right? The ingredients are in it, vodka, soda. That one's easy. But one night, a friend of mine, actually he was an old-timer bartender. His name is Don. He worked next door to my bar. And he asked me for a Sazerac. Has anyone ever heard of a Sazerac before? Well, it's a great drink. It's an absolutely fantastic drink. But at the time, I had no idea what it was, so I just lied and I told him that I didn't know it. I told them that we didn't have the ingredients available. So, although I don't want to paint the picture that I'm a liar, I'm an honest man. So I didn't know how to make a Sazerac, but later on I got the chance to take over a beverage program at a restaurant. And immediately my mind went to that cocktail, the Sazerac, and I looked it up in a book, and I found exactly how to make the recipe. And I'm going to show it to you real quick, and then I would like to tell you a little bit about what happened after. So the Sazerac is a very easy drink to make, although it is somewhat ritualistic. You're going to start by taking 2 rocks glasses. The first rocks glass I'm going to fill with ice. The next rocks glass is where I'm going to build the cocktail in. We're going to take a ½ ounce of basically a simple syrup that I've made. Pour it into the glass. And this is a rich, simple syrup made at 2-to-1 sugar to water. And then we'll take Peychaud's bitters. These are essential. These are old New Orleans bitters. I'm going to do 3 dashes. And a couple dribbles. 3 dashes and a couple dribbles. Add that to the recipe. And then I'm going to take rye whiskey. Rye whiskey is an old American style of whiskey that's kind of made a comeback. And we're going to do 2 ounces of that. I hope you all can make these at home later and see what I'm talking about. And then I'm going to add some ice. And stir. Try not to get ice everywhere. You didn't see that. Or that. In fact, like being at a bar is kind of like being at the splash zone at SeaWorld, you know. So I might stir it a little longer, but I see the clock running down, so I'm going to take it out. Actually, it's delicious. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dump that ice. So I have a chilled glass. And I'm going to add, this is absinthe in here. Absinthe. Ooh, the green fairy. Just put a couple drops of that. Don't worry, you won't be tripping and seeing colors. And actually, you want to make sure not to get too much in it, because what I'm about to do next could spray all over the place. So the tradition is that when you're to coat the glass, you throw it up in the air and scream Sazerac. I'm a little too self-conscious to scream Sazerac, so I was wondering if you all would help me with it, okay? So I'm going to count to 3, and then I would hope everybody would scream Sazerac, okay? 1, 2, 3. Sazerac! Very good. It worked. It's nice and coated. So you're really just using a little bit of the absinthe. And then we're going to strain this mixture into there. Ooh, that looks good. Take a lemon peel and just spray the oils on top of it. And you can put it in there or you can discard it. But that's the Sazerac. Now, when I made this Sazerac, it was, actually, let me try. Yeah, that's good. So when I made this Sazerac, I couldn't believe it. The depth of flavor to it. The fact is I realized it's a culinary pursuit, making cocktails, right? That it's not just something you dump into a pitcher with a bunch of ice, that it's something really wonderful. And in fact, I tasted the chef that I worked with at the time on this, and he sipped it and he said, well, I could drink this all night. And I was, a little taken aback by that and really impressed, because he has one of the best palates of anyone I ever knew. So the Sazerac is really a culinary achievement. Well, I guess these 3 cocktails that I've talked about really demonstrate a lot about what a cocktail is and reinventing a cocktail. And not all of it actually has to do with the cocktail itself. The fact is that, in a way, reinventing a cocktail is like reinventing our relationships. That we really take time to make the cocktail, the ritual behind it, the sort of adventure of looking for that perfect cocktail and finding it, and the kind of embedded sociality of a cocktail, that it's to be drank with other people and to be enjoyed. And so, in a lot of ways, like I said, the cocktail is reinventing our relationships and reinventing our lives. So, I'd like to leave you with a quote from a great cocktail writer. His name is David Embury, and he was writing in 1948. He wrote a book called The Fine Art of Mixing Drinks. And if anybody wants to pick up a book on the theory of cocktails, this one's pretty good. And he has a quote in it that I would like to toast you with, and I'm sorry that you don't have a drink now, but again, we're almost there, 1 minute, 51 seconds away. So David Embury is answering the question, what then is a cocktail? And he says, the well-made cocktail is the most gracious of drinks. It pleases the senses. The shared delight of those who partake in this refreshing nectar breaks the ice of formal reserve. Taut nerves relax, taut muscles relax, tired eyes brighten, tongues loosen, friendships deepen, and the world becomes a better place to live. If that's not a good reason to drink, I can't think of one. So, thank you all very much. And let's get a drink, huh?